Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room, a show that endeavors to bring you some of the big stories from Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada, the wide world. I'm Robin Adair, and speaking of the wide world, all the way across in Saanich is my partner in crime, the man who wears a different shirt every hour of the day, the Croatian sensation himself, John Jurisic. And John, have you been busy this week emceeing a major rally at the legislature?
Oh my gosh, was that fun. You know, this was the BC Healthcare Matters rally at the legislature, and it was celebrating Family Physicians Day and obviously advocating for more doctors. And that was great. I just loved it. Was so honored to do that. They organized the event. Their supporters and lots of medical professionals came out to let the province know, make a big noise that 1 million people are without a family doctor. Can you imagine in this time? This is not acceptable, Robin. No care and or bad care do not equal universal health care. Organizer Camille Curry, a remarkable leader and speaker, was able to deliver a petition to the Ledge with approximately 42,000 signatures, Robin. Can you believe it? All these names demanding that action be taken to ensure every British Columbian receives timely in-person health services. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so.
I don't think so either, John, and I really hope the government was listening. This is an important message. And in just a few moments' time, we're going to be speaking to Dr. Jennifer Lush, who was a big part of the rally, has been a big part of this process, and speaking for a lot of doctors out there. And John, before we get to her, I want to get to one of the things that's been a niggler for a lot of doctors over the last couple of weeks. That's remarks made recently by Health Minister Adrian Dix when he was talking about nurse practitioners.
I really emphasize family doctor and nurse practitioner because I think in nurse practitioners, I'm not saying they can provide better primary care, but for many people they do. Our attachment requirements are slightly less because nurse practitioners tend to take more time with patients. We've seen this in our analysis of our nurse practitioner-only clinic. They take patients with a severity of need that is higher right now in those clinics, so that will be borne out across the system.
You know, Robin, Adrian Dix's comments that nurse practitioners can be effective is true. I mean, come on, you know, we have extraordinary health practitioners in this province. They are an important part of our healthcare future as key members of healthcare teams in primary care centers. But, you know, Robin, the real problem here is that doctors feel Minister Dix is not really focusing on the real issue. The fact that there are 1 million British Columbians, how many times do I have to say that, without a GP, and the primary care centers are not equipped, Robin, to deal with the growing public demand.
And, you know, the minister, Adrian Dix, has been on the defensive since making those remarks. He did talk to reporters. He said that they didn't hear him say what they heard him say. Really, what he was trying to do was backtrack, I think. So here's what I think about Health Minister Adrian Dix and remarks he made in the legislature about nurse practitioners and doctors for that matter. And the issue isn't what he said, it's actually where the message was directed. Because he was talking about the fact that he believes that nurse practitioners play an important role in our healthcare system and do a lot of good work and are highly trained and can be effective in primary care. So he was speaking on that. And the doctors took offense at some of those remarks, but he wasn't speaking to the doctors. He was speaking to the public. He was speaking to us. And I believe that he is saying that nurse practitioners can be effective and fair enough. Not an unfair comment. The problem here is what the minister is not telling us. He's not telling us that they, in fact, do not have a major plan underway to get way more family practice doctors back in British Columbia in operation. In fact, we don't even have enough doctors being graduated from our medical schools to cover the number of doctors that are retiring, or the number of doctors that are walking away from practice because it's getting too expensive and they're moving away from practicing medicine. And, you know, this is not new. This has been going on for decades. The problem is we now have the baby boom. It is upon us. It's no longer an excuse to sit back and do status quo. We have to get innovative, and we have to do it now. That's the way I see it.
Well said, Robin. Man, that beautifully represents what I feel the Victoria Rumble Room is thinking. So many of our listeners are thinking. In fact, Dr. Jennifer Lush, who was at the rally recently at the legislature, she's the physician quoted in question period, you know, talking about the government using a smoke and mirror strategy. That was so great what she said. She's now with us in the Rumble Room. Let's zoom her in. Dr. Lush, it's great that you're willing to step forward and speak to us on behalf of your profession. I understand you're raising a family now. You're working part-time. Part-time, however, likely means still a 60-hour work week and a lot of time spent doing paperwork at night when you're not paid. Would moving doctors into government-owned clinics begin to be a solution to this challenge, removing the overhead and administrative costs?
Well, I think the thing is there are multiple solutions. Every community is different, every physician is different, and every patient panel is different. So there are some physicians out there that might welcome the opportunity to work on contract in a government-funded clinic. But the reality is family physicians on the ground now in practice are running successful practices and have been for decades. We have established staff that are members of our team, and we are very well equipped to offer quality care to our patients. We are just asking for support to be able to continue to do so that we don't lose any more of our established family doctors. And so, you know, to say that we all need to close our practices and move into government-funded clinics is doing a disservice to the people of BC. It's devaluing the care that we've been offering for generations. And frankly, it will reduce access because the physicians and the nurse practitioners who are working in the government-funded clinics are not seeing the volume of patients that traditional family physicians have been doing. And in a time when we have a crisis of access and there are people not receiving the care they need, then we need to be supporting, family doctors to keep seeing as many patients as we can.
Premier Horgan has been fairly agitated about this. There was a situation not too long ago in question period where he was getting a lot of tough questions from the opposition. He got so upset he actually dropped an F-bomb. And he has now stepped forward and said that he thinks maybe the solution could be bringing in more foreign doctors. So foreign doctors, I mean, the question really is, would they come if they can't get paid better? I mean, looking at the pay scale across the country, I mean, is it worth it for them to come from overseas or from another country? And on top of that, would they come if they have to go back to school, go to UBC for a year or two to get qualified before they can practice? So do you think foreign doctors could be the solution? It was a solution a while ago. Could it be again?
I have nothing against bringing in additional foreign trained doctors. The small towns of BC have been reliant on a South African contingent of very qualified physicians for years. But I think the really critical thing that the government seems to be missing is that you can bring in foreign doctors, but in the current state of our healthcare system, as community longitudinal family medicine is currently structured and funded, those international foreign doctors are not going to choose community family medicine. We have to fix the system from the ground up. UBC is currently graduating 52 international medical graduates from their family medicine residency program every year, but they are not choosing community family practice any more than the Canadian graduates are. We have to fix the system.
Jennifer, there's been a lot of news recently about Alberta and how our neighboring province is having more success, apparently, in delivering services and retaining doctors. Are there lessons there that we could apply in the BC model?
Yeah, I think there definitely are. I mean, healthcare is an issue of concern all across the province, and certainly Alberta is going to have its own issues. But you can't argue with the fact that there are still family doctors actually advertising for patients in Calgary and Edmonton. And that is an unheard of concept in British Columbia. And the reason being that family doctors in Alberta are feeling better supported. They are better funded. They have better infrastructure and a network to offer this team-based care that Minister Dix keeps wanting to offer here. But the difference is Alberta has recruited its family doctors in planning what team-based care will look like. They have recruited the family doctors in planning what a patient care network should look like. And that has not happened in British Columbia. True collaboration with the physicians of BC in forming primary care networks or planning team-based care has not occurred. And so that's a very real difference. The other real difference, and it comes down to brass tacks, but as a family physician in Alberta, if I do a 20-minute visit with a patient there compared to a 20-minute patient visit here, I'm going to make twice the amount because they have time modifiers and they're allowed to bill for time spent charting and reviewing documents, none of which I can do here in BC. So of course, our young grads, when they finish medicine, we train them up here in BC and they all leave for other provinces where they can, pay off their student loans faster, and they're going to be better valued by the system.
Terrible waste of taxpayers' money. Now, my understanding is that you actually grew up on the island. Is that right? So you grew up here. Obviously, were a very good student. You must have been a very good student to become a doctor. You go on, you get a medical degree. You come back to practice medicine here in Victoria. So my question is, what would Dr. Jennifer Lush be telling young Jennifer Lush, if she could right now, about the idea of becoming a doctor? Would you be enthusiastic about encouraging the younger you to still go in to general practice?
I would. And I have to say, family medicine is an incredibly rewarding career. For all that, sometimes in the media, I feel like family physicians are portrayed as being, greedy and we only want money and we only have 10 minutes per patient. I challenge all of that notion. I care about my patients as any family doctor does, and it is incredibly rewarding to be involved in their life journey and to guide them through all their healthcare ups and downs. I have always said family medicine is one of the most rewarding fields of medicine. The trouble is, rewarding does not pay the bills. Rewarding does not help you run a business. And so, I am here in Victoria because for family reasons. I have, family that requires me to be in town to stay here. But if I did not have that tie to Victoria, I very realistically would consider moving back to Australia, where my husband's family is from, or to Alberta, where I have practiced and done locums in the past. So really, these, unless people have a family reason to be tied to the island, they're not going to stay. And this is why we have this crisis in British Columbia. It's not just the island. I shouldn't have said that. It's province-wide. So yes, I would say to the younger me, absolutely go into family medicine. But I'd maybe encourage my parents to move to another province where I would be better compensated.
Oh, that was great. Interviewing Dr. Lush. She was great at the legislature. Had some very profound things to say. It was great. And, that opinion, it's being shared across the province. Lots of letters are being generated on this doctor shortage, Robin. Lots of letters. And no surprise, a lot of them come from the doctors, right? They're certainly being motivated to speak their mind. Dr. Mann writes, what we need to do is fix the problem. Value and fund family doctors appropriately as the bedrock of primary care.
Dr. Huggen writes, this is the result of successive governments and others undermining family doctors and the specialty of medicine we practice.
Dr. Bouchard says, paperwork is killing family practice. Whoa, profound words.
So healthcare is obviously on everyone's mind. And this is also, actually part of a big announcement in another sector that has been directly affected by this, where people are saying, yes, why is the money going to this and not going to family doctors?
Yeah.
And we're talking now about a big announcement about the Royal BC Museum, John. The new board and administration is very woke at the Royal BC Museum. I'm being charitable about that. They're really big on First Nations reconciliation, and we all are. We all want to see fair play for our First Nations people. However, what's the price tag on that? They have decided at the museum that they are going to throw the baby and the bathwater out, and they are going to tear down and replace the Royal BC Museum. They're going to spend nearly $1 billion. You watch, it'll be $1 billion by the time they get finished with this new landmark. And it's going to open in 8 years, they say, in 2030. 8 years from now, there'll be no museum downtown. And well, here's a look at the announcement.
We are here today, I'm sure all of you know, to mark a monumental, some might call it a mammoth announcement.
Today, we're making true on our promise to bring the People's Museum into the 21st century. Our government has been working hard to build BC's museum for the next generation. It will be built within our Clean BC values. We are taking action to ensure that the stories of all British Columbians who shaped this province are added to the collections and exhibition halls of the new Royal BC Museum.
There's been plenty of reaction, Robin, to this announcement. None of it good. In fact, I forecast it's going to end up being $2 billion by the time this thing is done. Oh my gosh. In his first appearance as a new leader of BC Liberals, Kevin Falcon made a point of asking about the museum and referencing the museum in his first line of questioning to the Premier.
A modest upgrade is one thing, but $1 billion for a new museum is outrageous. And as Site C so clearly demonstrates, we all know it's going to be a lot more than $1 billion under this NDP government because they don't know how to deliver any major capital projects. And so my question to the Premier is this: why on earth is the Premier so tone deaf to be spending over $1 billion on a museum project instead of helping British Columbians get access to a family doctor and some relief when they're trying to fill up their cars?
Currently, artifacts and archival materials are in a building that is below sea level. It is not seismically safe. It has been, in my opinion, ignored by governments for the past 20 years. I was briefed, Honourable Speaker, as an opposition member back in 2010. The member was in cabinet at that time. And it was abundantly clear to the then CEO of the Royal BC Museum that something needed to be done to protect and preserve our collective history. And we were approached, as governments are, and again, the member will remember this, Cabinet meets, Cabinet receives submissions. The Royal BC Museum brought forward their case. We spent the past 5 years doing our due diligence, finding the best way forward. We believe we've arrived at that point, listening to the board of directors, listening to the CEOs, putting in place a plan that we believe is achievable to protect our collective history, and I think you should get behind that, not oppose it.
Robin, don't recall recently where there's been so much reaction to a funding announcement, in this instance, the museum announcement.
Negative reaction.
Negative. It's all negative. A Czech TV poll last week showed over 84% of people against this project. And a lot of our viewers have expressed themselves on this issue. Comments like, well, if there's $1 billion lying around, why isn't it going to the doctor shortage? What about gas prices? What about 1,000 other things, Rob?
Most expensive homes in Canada, most expensive homes in North America. There's all sorts of things.
Right.
$1 billion would come in handy for, John. And I wonder, why we couldn't have stuck with the existing building, why we had to go to this model. I hear people now comparing this strategy to the Site C Dam. The Liberals got that through. The NDP, when they came into power, looked at it. So much had been spent on it. They couldn't walk away. I think the NDP have 2 years now to let that building get ripped down. And Kevin Falcon says he won't replace it, but if it's already been ripped down, he'll have to replace it with something. So it could be the NDP's gift that keeps on giving, despite the fact that John Horgan says that it's money well spent. And let's now shift away from this, though, John. Let's shift away and talk about Victoria Mayor's race. And we have a new contender who has jumped into the fray.
You know, Robin, in the style of the Victoria Rumble Room, where there seems to be an enormous new issue every couple of hours, yes, we have a new contender for the Victoria Mayoralty. Mary Ann Alto has thrown her hat into the ring. She's got a ton of NDP backing and the endorsement of outgoing mayor and my friend, Lisa Helms.
Yes, and you know, you wonder how that's going to help, but certainly I think they're going to have that NDP machine out there working very hard on Mary Ann Alto's behalf. I've known her for several decades. She used to work as one of the backroom people during the Harcourt Glenn Clark years when the NDP was in power back in the 1990s. And I will say this about Mary Ann Alto, she is always a very nice person and very engaging. And I just want to put this out here, John. Mary Ann Alto, you're welcome to come on the Victoria Rumble Room. Here's your big invitation. You can come on and tell us about what you'd like to do for the city of Victoria. And we are not playing favorites here. But as it happens, we do have somebody else that you'll be facing off with next November.
Yes, as it happened, we have the other main contender for Victoria Mayoralty chair, blah, 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 say that 3 times really fast, Robin, standing by. Councillor Stephen Andrew has been a friend of this show since we started 14 months ago. In fact, he's been a friend of ours for a long time. You've worked with him, what, 100 years ago?
When I used to work, that's right.
Yeah, when you used to work. He's got a few things to say about repurposing our parks for dog lovers, rerouting cruise ship buses for downtown businesses. Stephen is always outspoken. Let's zoom him in, Robin.
Now, joining us again in the Victoria Rumble Room is Victoria City Councillor Stephen Andrews. Stephen, so nice to have you on the show again.
Nice to be back.
We're going to start with something that, you know, most people wouldn't think of this as a really hard-hitting issue, but it seems to be catching a lot of traction in Victoria, and that's the whole idea of dog parks, and that's dog parks in general, but Royal Athletic Park in particular, which of course has for generations been the place to go see soccer and big events. In the summers for the last while, it's been the home of the baseball team, and that's been a really popular thing to go see the Harbor Cats. And now there's community organization in that area that are saying it should be open to the public, it should be open to the dogs. What's going on? Have we gone to the dogs in Victoria?
Well, I think what's happened is that the community association in North Park has really become more of a political organization. And they've made it very known that they want the Harbor Cats out of Royal Athletic Park. They feel that it should be a community park. But they do have a community park, and that's Central Park, where the Crystal Pool is located. There's tennis courts there, and there's a lot of areas. And I just disagreed with this proposal that came forward. It made no sense. We have agreed, we did agree, I should say, that we would review the whole issue of dogs in parks in 2023, in the 2023 budget. And then we started getting all these little bits and pieces, people coming forward saying, hey, we want our park to have a dog run in it. And I didn't support it. I said, look, we've already agreed in 2023, which I think is the great idea, do a full study, look at where we could enhance or where we may need to adjust. And I thought that was the best way of doing it. Thankfully, last week, Mayor Helps came to her senses, I'll use that term, and said, you know what? The way that Councillor Andrew has kind of been proposing is the way to go. Let's do it all at once.
I was speaking to Rick Aurora this last weekend. We've had him on the show, and he was very concerned when the first cruise ship came to Victoria a couple of weeks ago.
Which came, there were a trickle of people walking, but there was no crowds. If some went to Chinatown, some went to Wharf Street, some went to the Bay Center. So the 700 block people, we didn't get many people over here at all, period.
Now, we've heard from the mayor and others on council, well, there's a lot more ships coming. There'll be a lot more passengers coming, and we're not going to make a snap decision on this when we haven't got very much information in. Well, we've now had this, and Rick Aurora says it hasn't changed at all. He says there's still hardly anyone coming into his shop that have come off the cruise ships. They used to actually drop them by the cruise ships. because they've got bike lanes going down Humboldt, they've taken it all the way around, and people are not being dropped anywhere close to the Empress Hotel. And Stephen, is this something that can be looked at again? Is this something that will be actually weighed out at the end of this tourist season? I mean, are council members listening to downtown business?
Well, I think that what we're doing is we are monitoring the situation. I certainly have been talking to the businesses on lower government and finding out what's going on. And they've said, even back to me, let's give it a couple more weeks to find out what's going on. So I did check in with them when the first cruise ship came in, and they had issues there. I do know that some of the hospitality businesses that are on government are still doing exceptionally well. So I think it is that area of lower government. I see no reason why we could not be dropping people in front of the Empress and letting them walk up government. I think that could happen. I think it's going to take a political will to do that. And it's going to take a will from the operator of the shuttle, and it's going to have to take staff to be involved in that. I don't think the political will is there at the table to do that right now. I'm not saying open up Government Street. I'm saying let's drop at the Empress, then go up, turn right on Humboldt, and then come back. It would shorten the loop.
I thought they can't turn right on Humboldt because the bike lane is so wide.
Yeah, I believe that they will have to make an adjustment there if they want that to happen. You know, I mean, with all good intentions, we've got to find solutions to these unintended consequences. And personally, I believe that the solution they've come up with, where they've turned View Street into a two-way street, and then they're on that higher part of government, is not working. But we'll have to wait and see. So I'm supportive of dropping people in front of the Empress Hotel. The other reason I'm in support of that, just from a tourism point of view, I think it is a way better location to drop people into the heart of that vista that we put on so many postcards and pictures and travel brochures. So I think it'd be a way better idea. When you go to other cities, let's see, when you go to Paris, where does everyone want to go? They want to go to the Eiffel Tower because it's iconic. Mm-hmm. Well, the Empress and the Inner Harbor is iconic for Victoria. So that's why I think that we should be making more use of that.
Stephen, I'm very encouraged to hear that answer, because I'm a bike rider. I know some folks go, you got to be kidding. But yes, I ride my bike a lot. And I actually love the bike lane infrastructure that's been built in Victoria. It's extraordinary. But this, this is an issue that's become black and white. You're either fully supportive or you are not supportive. And the folks on either side really get angry at the others. I actually really love the bike lanes, but there are, and that's why I'm so encouraged to hear what you said, there are places where it can be modified.
John, I've said this. People say to me, are you going to rip out all of the bike lanes? And my line on this is, and it's absolutely the truth, I am not going to spend millions of dollars ripping out what we put millions of dollars putting in. But where it doesn't work, where we have issues, we need to reevaluate that with research and make adjustments.
And balance.
Balance. You're absolutely right. The one thing that really bothers me, and I think you brought it up to a really good issue, and maybe this is something we could talk about right now, is that there is this divisiveness in the community about issues. You're either right or you're wrong. I don't see it like that. I really try to look at the issue as a challenge and try to find the best way through it for everybody. And there are times when you can't do that, but I really do the best to say, okay, what is gonna get us the best support from both sides? And I think if we just sit down and listen to one another and try to be more generous in others' opinions, we could find that way through. And I believe, and as I'm running for mayor, that's what I what the city wants. People want to know that they have been heard, that they are being considered, and that the decisions have not been made before they get to the council table or before they're asked about it.
I should also mention we had Stephen Andrew on earlier talking about police and regional police forces and suggesting that we adopt that on the South Island. And, this didn't exactly get the major thumbs up, John, from other mayors in the region.
It kind of put him on the defensive. View Royal Mayor David Screech wrote in response to Stephen's comments, well, I, for one, think Stephen's completely wrong. We have a sub-regional force on the West Shore that serves us well. We would not be better served by a Victoria-based force, and the RCMP do an excellent job for us.
And Rob Martin, the mayor of Colwyn, also has chimed in on this and says that people like the RCMP, they enjoy it on the West Shore, they think they're being well policed, and they really like that red surge. People get very welled up with pride and tradition when they see the Mounties in their fine red garb on occasion. And Rob Martin will be our special guest next week when, John, you're hosting the show without me. You have our special guest host in place. Paul Barriscale will be here.
Robin, it's a very sad time. I'm going to miss you. You're going to have a great time back east visiting family, a well-deserved rest. But I'm going to enjoy doing it with Paul. We'll see what kind of action we can generate, what kind of rumbling we can get going, and we'll look forward to you coming back. Have a great rest. But we're going to move on. We're going to make this work.
I know you can do a good job, Johnny, and in your usual colorful way. And, it's going to be great to have Paul on board and make him fully part of our Rumble Room family. And, geez, John, I think we're getting close to the end, but I guess you're going to mention a sad passing here before we get too far along here. We've been talking about city councillors. We've been talking about the mayor's race, but let's peel back to a different time when we had someone else on council that I know we both really liked.
Robin, you're so right. We want to mark today the sad passing of longtime Victoria Councillor Helen Hughes at the age of 89. During my formative years in business, what feels like a few too many years ago, Helen Hughes was really instrumental in helping me meet local politicians, local organizations. She was extraordinary. I couldn't believe how kind she was. She's a member of the Order of Canada. She's a wonderful, dedicated Victorian who, along with her husband, Ken, another massively huge personality in BC life and community, she has left a real mark in our community and will be missed,
I couldn't agree more, John, and Victoria is sadder to say goodbye, but what a legacy. And now, John, we're getting very, very close. So very quickly, how can people follow the Rumble Room, like the Rumble Room, make sure they stay on board and become full Rumble Roomers?
Yes, exactly. Even when you're away, which I can't believe anyway. Anyway, yes, we have a Facebook page where most of the rumbling goes on, let's be honest. We have a Twitter page and we have a YouTube site that houses all of our interviews. We have created a group site to allow you, our listener and viewer, to provide input and to make announcements freely. That's Victoria Rumble Room News and Views. We have an Instagram page and we have a TikTok page. And on that note, the man of many shirts and many used to be ties, I'm Johnny Jurisic.
And I'm Robin Adair. And once again, I'm going to dedicate this show to Helen Hughes. We're dedicating the Rumble Room to Helen Hughes. And we also say, rumble on.